Welcome, everybody, to One of One. I think this is our second or third one right now, right?
I think we're on 3 of 3, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure we're on 3 of 3.
Yeah, I thought it might be something like that. But, of course, this is broadcasting over the Dueling Aces Facebook and YouTube as well. Welcome, everybody. We've got a possible special guest joining us in a little while. It's, of course, he asked for a floating time frame, which is very cool and not a big deal. We will definitely love to accommodate our guest. So hopefully he does get to join us today. I know he did have a little bit of activities going on today. But knowing that we're smack dab in between a few of our the CFP, we're going to get right into that. And I know that Sam is not real crazy about this. And shout out to D. Thank you very much, brother. Appreciate it, Dennis.
I'll be back for the next segment.
Kaylee, what's up? Looking forward to having you hanging with us. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was it was a close game. Everybody said this was going to be super tight and a defensive struggle, you know, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, everybody was getting points.
All I'm going to say is that anybody, and I'm trying to be as subjective as I can with this, if you would have told me that not only would I go to my first Penn State game this year, but I would go to my first game in lieu of a season where we were a field goal away from a national championship appearance, I probably would have told you to put it down because we don't get these opportunities. So the first thing I want to say is that proud of this damn team. They played their asses off all year. I would also like this not to be I understand the joke is funny, but I don't really think you can put this game on James Franklin as much as a lot of people want to. I know the joke is funny of the, you know, he's 4-20 against top 10 opponents at Penn State. I get all that. I really don't know what people wanted him to do yesterday to stop what happened. The only thing I want to say is any person that is close to him that told Drew Aller that it may be a good idea to try to go to the NFL this year, please exclude yourself away from the situation. Because that's my biggest takeaway from yesterday, is that Drew Aller is clearly not ready to be an NFL quarterback.
You got your new car?
Yeah, that of course is true.
And it's got nothing to do with the 2 interceptions that were called back due to penalties, which, just so Notre Dame fans are aware, those are penalties. You cannot grab a guy's jersey. You cannot, and on the second one, the PI call, you can't run through a guy without turning around. They are penalties.
Where'd you get this?
The biggest issue with this were the throws that Aller missed. He had 2 throws early in the first half. He had Tyler Warren up the seam. They're playing zone coverage. There's the safety, and then there's the corner that's supposed to be playing in zone. And and stay in his spot. All Drew Aller has to do is fit that ball between the safety and the corner. Tyler Warren has easily a 4-yard separation from the corner and a 8-yard separation from the safety. Warren found the weak spot in this coverage, and Aller completely overthrew him. Then, second quarter, they have what's up, Matt?
Oh, you're getting everybody. What's up,
No.
Dave, Scott, Clint? What's happening?
Now, the other throw that really baffled me was he had almost the same play with Nick Singleton and had him up the seam. And he missed, and Singleton's got like 5 yards down the field on this linebacker, and Aller just listed out of bounds. Not to mention the touchdown pass that Singleton would have caught if Aller would have threw the ball and led him instead of throwing it behind him.
Right.
Here's my biggest takeaway from this game. Drew Aller was god-awful yesterday. He was not his best. Especially taken away from the week before against Boise State, which he actually was very good. Like the 2 throws that you saw that were intercepted that were called back, those were touchdown passes a week ago. Now,
Sure.
granted, I understand the talent level between Notre Dame's defense and Boise State is that of like Jamarcus Russell to Tom Brady. I get that.
Yeah.
But finally, I eventually kept saying, eventually, Penn State's lack of explosiveness on the outside is going to haunt them. You can only throw the football to Tyler Warren so many times. Now, granted, it works half the time because Tyler Warren is the best tight end in college football. But eventually, a team like Notre Dame, who, by the way, have a tremendous amount of talent in their secondary. Ryan Clark's son is in that secondary. They've got that kid Watts. They have got talent all over the place.
What's up, Justin?
A wide receiver has got to make a play. I would have took a 1-yard catch. I would have took a 1-yard catch from my wide receiver room. You know what they managed to do yesterday? They actually managed to have negative yards if you count the ladder at the end of the game. We had 0 catches for -3 yards from our wide receivers yesterday.
Matt says Notre Dame made adjustments, Penn State didn't.
Well, and this is where I'm getting at. They can't make adjustments because if it's not Tyler Warren, Nicholas Singleton, or Katron Allen, nobody else on this offense can make a play. This has been the problem with Penn State in every game that has been big. This is what hurt them against Oregon. This is what killed them against Ohio State, and it's what killed their chances of playing for the national title. They do not have any, and I am saying any, wide receiver talent that is capable of being average. Their wide receiver room this year has been one of the worst I've ever seen. And Penn State's usually pretty known for having solid wide receivers. Just look at the NFL talent they have. Chris Godwin, Deshaun Hamilton was a really good Penn State player. They have had wide receiver talent usually pretty much all the time. This year, now it didn't help that DeAndre Lambert-Smith decided to head to Auburn in the transfer portal. And then decided to take shots at Penn State on Twitter last night, what game did Auburn play in this week? I'll wait for that one. But I am hoping this is easily going to be the wake-up call that Drew Aller needs to come back fully for his senior year. I know he already said he was, but people were still trying to convince this kid that he was going to try to come out this year. Last night showed you that should not even be in the conversation.
All I said was, I mean, I did say Georgia was frauds, and I did turn around and say, well, wouldn't it be interesting if Notre Dame would shock the world? Well, we're halfway.
Look at where we are.
We're about halfway there. But tonight,
we're more than halfway.
Tonight, I know this guy right here. This guy's going to be blowing up my phone all night long. I have a funny feeling because.
Oh, no. And I'm not disagreeing with, even though even if those 2 interceptions were called back, they're terrible throws. They're terrible decisions. The Tyler Warren one is in the triple coverage. I don't care how good Tyler Warren is. You don't throw a ball in the triple coverage. You're telling me. See, this is what I'm talking about. Clint, yes, they are.
Yeah, I was gonna say and especially when the quarterback decides he's gonna jump in the portal and go to Miami now. What the heck?
He saw Gunnar Stockton lead that offense better than he did. He said, "Yeah, I gotta get out of here."
Oh my gosh!
But and I really don't know what people thought would have been different with Georgia's game if Carson Beck did play. There really isn't much of a drop off between Gunnar Stockton and Carson Beck. But this was my point. And look, what Bruiser said was spot on. Drew Aller was bad yesterday. And this, back to that real quick.
Sure.
Tyler Warren is in triple coverage. That just shows you that Notre Dame had no fear in Trey Wallace, Omari Evans. They weren't afraid of any of these guys. Excuse me. They were not afraid of any of these guys. Julian Fleming hasn't been on a pass-catching route in 3 weeks. He's a block-first wide receiver now. That's how bad he's been. Next year cannot get here quick enough for Drew Aller and Penn State. Now, we don't know what's going to happen with Katron Allen and Nicholas Singleton. They both have the option. Draft, do you go to the pros or do you come back? I would love for them both to come back, but I think even last night they showed you they're both probably NFL-capable running backs. I mean, Nicholas
Singleton. Well, there's a big measuring stick to be had tonight when you've got to go into Texas to play the Longhorns in the Cowboys Stadium. That's a very large task at hand because it's pretty much a home game for Texas. It's going to be really hard. If Ohio State comes out hard and angry like they have been, and they play all 4 quarters that way, then, yeah, I could agree that, yeah, it's a pretty hot team. Have they cooled off? Yeah, it could be a possibility.
Yeah. But actually, we're talking about the transfer portal, actually. It's kind of funny. Penn State just landed Texas A&M transfer TJ Shanahan.
What's up, Kareem? How are you, brother?
So Penn State's already adding to their offensive line for next year. But no, Drew Aller, again, I can say it 1,000 times. Drew Aller was not good yesterday. I'm not going to sit here and try to sugarcoat it. He wasn't good. He never settled in. But that's the other problem with that is even he knew it. Everyone that watched the game knows it. They do not have wide receiver talent. That is why I am hoping next year that Kyron Hudson, who's coming over from USC, and Devontae Ross, who's coming over from Troy, can help this wide receiver room because this is bad. Look, we can agree. Some of the most dominant offensive players in college football are wide receivers. And the fact that not one Penn State wide receiver could give me a 1-yard catch should tell you all you need to know. I can't wait to watch. I'm hoping that these 2 kids they land in the portal, they can't be worse than this.
Yeah, Bruiser's right. The throw over the middle with less than a minute left. Well, and especially, that's 50-50 though, I think too, because most of the time you're going into that last minute. Everybody knows you're going to turn around and try to catch the ball, get out of bounds, stop the clock. You're usually not going to go up the middle. It was a 50-50 shot on that.
And he was, and now the ball came out. First of all, he starts out rolling to his left. He stops, pivots his hip. He's trying to throw it across now to the complete opposite side of the field he's running to, and it was late. It was late by about 12 seconds.
Yeah. Kareem, from your lips to God's ears, brother.
And look, like Matt said earlier, kudos to Notre Dame. They made the adjustments. They started to take away the run game a little bit. Penn State still ran the ball pretty effectively the whole game. But it just is what it is. Notre Dame made the adjustments. Their offense did enough against Tom Allen's defense, who, by the way,
the spread was only 1.5 points, guys. I mean,
yeah.
Come on. Everybody knew that was going to be a tight game.
And
I mean, tonight's game is, I think, still, I mean, at 5.5, and it's kind of bizarre, but I mean, still, I think tonight's game is going to be just as close.
Well, I'll say this. Before I get off of Penn State, I just want to say one thing about tonight's game. If Quinn Ewers plays like he did in the fourth quarter and the overtime against Arizona State, this is going to be a close game. But they need that Quinn Ewers to show up. But the last thing I want to say about Penn State, Abdul Carter is not a human being. That man was playing last night with one arm. If anybody didn't know, he got hurt against Boise State, and he somehow got himself prepared enough to play in that game last night. And most of the time, he was the best player on the field defensively for Penn State, which he always has been. But the fact that he did that last night with basically one arm, he will be going. George, I'm sure that the draft.
Bruiser, you got that backwards. Is actually Ohio State is favored over Texas by 6.
That's a big line. That's a big line.
And actually, last night ESPN had it at 5.5.
But George, I'm telling you this now. I'm sure when. Oh, Kareem, I know that, but I'm just saying that's the Quinn Ewers they need if they want to win this game. I know the OSU is not Arizona State. Absolutely.
That's what I'm worried about. I am worried about Manning getting in that game.
Well, Manning got in this game, and we're talking differently.
Yeah, that is what my big concern is. That is my big concern right there.
Well, my last thing to say, Abdul Carter, George, you're probably going to be somewhat apart. We'll probably be on the some type of a draft show together. Abdul Carter will be gone by 8:25 that night. He will be going in the top 10.
Yeah.
The kid played with one freaking arm the entire night, and it was easily dominating what is a pretty damn good Notre Dame offensive line. He was dominating it. Now, granted, it's kind of hard to do it for a whole game with one arm, but he was sensational. And like I said, I hadn't picked Penn State to win one of their playoff games because I knew eventually something was going to reel its ugly head. And their lack of wide receiver depth did last night. And Drew Aller finally played an erratically bad game. He was erratic the whole night. He wasn't ready. He was not ready.
Yeah, and like I said, from this point, we're ready to move on. Sorry, guys, into our next topic, which I find extremely interesting that everybody keeps going with quarterbacks galore, and the actual MVP is actually sitting right there in the green car. He's the only guy who has been a most valuable player for his team. Yeah, I get it. Burrow has been top dog as far as the passing yards and the passing touchdowns this season, and he's not even getting a sniff. And everybody's like, well, the favorites are always Mahomes, and now it's Allen, and then it's Lamar. It's like Lamar hasn't. It's like, okay, yeah, you're led into the playoffs. It's like, but dude, you're always kind of just led into the playoffs, just like Mahomes, just like Allen. So it's like, yeah, you're just in that conversation. But in actual MVP this year, which just like last year with McCaffrey, you clearly have a full-on 100% healthy Saquon Barkley, and he totally should have this thing hands down because he has been a true MVP for that team. The Eagles had stolen, I'm going to say it. I don't know if they put, something in the air vents or something over in the New York offices, but I think we all know that somebody is losing sleep every single night right now for the rest of his life because he let Saquon Barkley walk out that door and instead paying some idiot quarterback who you end up cutting. You screwed up, dude. That dude has literally established the running game for the Eagles, taken the pressure off of Hurts having to run when he doesn't need to, and made it a deadly weapon. I mean, Lamar, shoot, he got Derrick Henry this year. You know how much that took off? It saved Lamar's career. Shoot.
Look, I mean,
all Saquon did was help save Jalen Hurts' and made his extended out. And he did it with hitting 2,000 yards. So you tell me how that is not your number one MVP this year.
not only
I'll
that,
wait.
he's probably
I'll wait.
if they win on Sunday against Green Bay, which I'm not saying they're not going to, but you got to take every team seriously in the playoffs. You can't. We saw what happened last year with Green Bay went to Dallas. Now I know it's not the same thing. I know it's a different year, but you still got to prepare for these teams. If they at least get to the NFC title game, and that you still got to get through 2 more rounds to get there, not only did he save that for Jalen Hurts, he probably saved Nick. He's easily saved Nick Sirianni's job.
Oh, 100%.
So first of all, let's look at the guys that you have up here. Number 1, Joe Burrow. Just like the playoffs, you're all the way in the back there. You're not in there. So sorry about that.
Yeah, even though you threw the most passing yards and the most touchdowns this year, and your wide receiver got the triple crown. Yeah, sorry about your luck.
So, yeah, that's the thing. Burrow's got the best numbers out of all the quarterbacks on this thing, but you can't be the MVP and go win 8 games and miss the playoffs. Now, Lamar is probably, like you said about Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson just threw, 40 touchdown passes this year? Derrick Henry's definitely helped out Lamar Jackson a lot. But one thing I will Pat Mahomes, get out of here. Pat Mahomes is not the MVP of the league this year.
No, and he shouldn't be, but yet he's always right there. It's like, why? Hell, the whole Kansas City starting offense took a break this past weekend. And what happened? Denver shut him out.
Thank you, Bo Nix, for that fantasy championship, by the way. Now, the one thing I will give to Josh Allen, yes.
Ooh.
Would like to know that why Jared Goff isn't getting more consideration for this award.
I didn't think about that when I was
Now,
doing this. I really did. I really did not think about that.
Are we going to sit here and try to say that he's a system quarterback? Okay, but
so was Joe Montana.
What about? Well, hold on. Here's one. Right. We haven't seen the guy at the bottom of the screen. We haven't seen him outside of an Andy Reid system yet.
No.
Someone has to make the plays and the throws work. Still, people like Jared Goff should easily be more considered for the MVP. But the thing
that is a very fair question. But
it is.
You saw Goff turn around and play with the Rams. And the Rams went to Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But then the Rams went to the Super Bowl with Stafford. Stafford was in the Detroit system. Now Goff is over in the Detroit system. It's okay. I don't know. Same coaches, right? Same coaches, right?
I don't know. Was Stafford? No, Stafford was Stafford there when Ben Johnson hasn't been there as long with Stafford, was he?
I'm saying head coaches.
What?
But
wait.
Fair enough. But fair enough.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Like Stafford, clearly Stafford runs McVay's system better than Goff did. Look, that if the Lions win a Super Bowl, that will go down as the most even trade you will ever see.
That was still a very weird trade.
It is. But have you ever seen a trade work out this well for both sides? The Lions are the best team in the NFC. The Rams have a Super Bowl. I've never seen that before. But exactly. It's because Goff's not flashy. He doesn't have mobility. He doesn't move around the pocket. These other guys do. Burrow doesn't really, but Burrow's not even in the conversation because his team's not playing this weekend. But the fact that, and I saw what Bruiser said about if you take Barkley off, the Eagles are still a 10-win team. Yeah, well, guess what? Yeah, DeAndre Swift was here last year, and he had a career year behind that offensive line. When you take a good running back and put it behind a great offensive line, they're going to have a career season. But when you take a great running back, which he is, and you put him behind a great offensive line, you get what you got this year. They are not the number 2 seed in the NFC without Saquon Barkley. I don't care who you put back there. They are not this good without Saquon Barkley. I still don't think they're going to give the award to a running back because it's still a quarterback/popularity award. And the two, Lamar and Josh Allen, are the sexier names here. But he easily, the guy literally has made the biggest impact on a new team.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, DeAndre Swift, even, Miles Sanders left Philly, went to the Panthers. The Panthers are a disaster anyway.
Yeah, what's he done since that?
I don't think it's kind of a fair assessment for Miles. Swift did pretty solid for Chicago, as best as he could on a bad team too. But Swift actually was able to make more of it than what Sanders was. So, I mean, and Swift was good with Detroit too. So I'm not going to take any of that away from him. Miles Sanders, it's kind of like, anybody in the prior Michael Shanahan system of running backs. If you were in Denver, you were great. Peyton Hillis goes Denver, comes to Cleveland, continues being dominant because we had a solid defense or offensive line. But you put him anywhere else is not the right system, and neither of those running backs are that good. So I understand what you're saying about the system, and it very well could be.
And if we're talking about like running backs in terms here, and I get Lamar Jackson, he's had a career year. I mean, what's he thrown? 40 touchdown passes this year? He's had a career high in almost every passing statistic you could think of. But if we're talking about who has helped that, I mean, look at this. The guy's thrown for over 4,000 yards. He's got a 120 passer rating. He's thrown 41 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. Are you telling me that the guy that they signed in the offseason hasn't had a little bit to do with that because now teams have to prepare for said running back? Oh, yeah, don't get me wrong. J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, this is the same thing. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins were good system running backs for the Ravens in that system. But look what happens when you go get a guy like Derrick Henry and what they do. Like, all these running backs that found new teams have had such a huge impact. Look at the Packers early on in the season. Jordan Love was turning the football over like crazy. He was being really erratic. Then they started using Josh Jacobs, and Josh Jacobs was top 4 in the league in rushing.
So here's your quarterback numbers. Burrow 1, and this is for passing yards. Lamar is 6.
I'm sorry. Geno Smith has more passing yards than Lamar Jackson? Oh, my God.
Do you notice who's missing off of this top 10?
Is honestly Josh Allen on here.
No, you do not see Josh in the top 10 on passing yards.
Well, okay. So the thing with Josh Allen this year is they clearly adapted to going and using James Cook more because to start the season, they didn't know what they had at wide receiver. Diggs was in Houston. They didn't know how much of an impact Shakir and Coleman would have early on. They didn't have Amari Cooper till the deadline. So they committed more to using James Cook, not only in the run game, but also in the pass game. What Josh Allen did this year is what he did was really impressive. Lesser weapons, and the Bills are still just as good. Josh Allen also stopped turning the football over as much as he has in the past, too. So all these guys have a great case, but like the Bills, Lamar Jackson was on the Ravens last year. They're still just as good, right?
Yeah.
Josh Allen is still on the Bills, right? And they're still just as good. Pat Mahomes is on the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are just as good. Do people forget last year that the Philadelphia Eagles were 10-1 and finished the year losing 5 of 6 games and collapsed completely down the stretch?
Yes, there is.
And look what happened now. You bring in Saquon Barkley. Now look, a lot of other things went into this, right? You got a better offensive coordinator. You got Vic Fangio running your defense, which, by the way, assistant coaches of the year, Vic Fangio. I know that Ben Johnson's going to be the sexy name there, but what Vic Fangio did with what was the worst defense in the league last year in terms of playoff teams is remarkable. And that's with losing Hassan Reddick traded to the Jets. That is losing Brandon Graham to injury. It's a bunch of new moving parts. I mean, Zach Bowen literally had a better season this year than Fred Warner. Who saw that coming?
Yeah. And Clint brought this up. He said, look at who's number 3. And it's Baker freaking Mayfield.
He's another one.
And he has just quietly 4,500 yards. His completion is literally right there in the top 2%. It's the top 2 right there between the top 3 guys.
Sorry, Brown.
71.4, 41 touchdowns, same as Lamar, only 2 behind Joe. Yeah, the 16 INTs ain't sexy, but 4,500 yards. Okay.
Also, add on to this, this is also without Chris Godwin for most of the season, and Mike Evans missed 4 games.
That's impressive. That means he can work with anybody. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, and he did that in Cleveland too. He worked with anybody. So he knows how to work with anybody. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, Baker Mayfield, and Cleveland fans always want to chime in when he does great. And then when he does bad, nobody's being around. He quietly, literally quietly has shown everybody he can play quarterback, period. End of story. Now, granted,
no doubt,
Tampa Bay is probably looking at, especially in this year's draft, probably going to restock on the wide receivers.
No, man, they got that kid McMillan who's been playing pretty well. They're kind of
right, and that's been a good start. And if they're smart, which it looks like they are, it's pretty much just like Seattle. Seattle went from Doug Baldwin to Tyler Lockett, and now they got DK Metcalf and Bobo and Jackson Smith and Jigba. I mean, if you literally play the cards right with the draft game, you can rebuild through the draft. And Tampa Bay is clearly showing that, even with their running backs this year.
Oh, yeah. Bucky Irving and Rachaad White have been amazing. But real quickly, pull up Clint's comment about Amari Cooper real quick. And I just want to rebut this. Now, granted, Cooper also got hurt when he got to Buffalo. He hurt his wrist and was out a few weeks. Here's the thing with that, Clint. I understand that he hasn't been like Amari Cooper, but the thing is here, he adds an element to the offense of where you still have to respect him. That opens things up for a Dawson Knox, a James Cook, a Shakir, a Keon Coleman. It opens up space for them to operate because it's another guy you have to respect who has had a very good NFL career. Even if he's not doing much, being on the field, he brings a presence to where you have to put someone around him, and it opens it up for everybody else. So yeah, Amari Cooper hasn't been like, oh my God, he hasn't been like world beaten over there in Buffalo, but he does provide them something. And that just makes Josh Allen more impressive.
Well, because at the time, Clint, everybody saw the Deshaun Watson from Houston, and that's not what Cleveland ended up getting because he had to serve the suspension and the time off, and that totally threw him totally out of his game, literally.
He has not looked right. Even before these Achilles injuries, he just doesn't look right when he's out there mentally or physically.
I mean, Christian McCaffrey is also a good example. He was almost out the whole year, and he hasn't been the same since either. It's like he's got about 3 or 4 games on, then he's going to be off, or he could be hurt for 1 or 2. And, you know, everybody who had him in fantasy this year knows all about it. It'll be kind of sad. Next year, you're going to see Christian McCaffrey as like a 3rd or 4th round pickup.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who took Christian McCaffrey in fantasy. Oh, wait, my co-host did.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Tyler.
Tyler does not have much luck with running backs. First, Nick Chubb last year.
I want to make sure. I want to make sure I know who he's drafting first before my leagues, so I know who not to take.
Yeah, so whoever Tyler's targeting, go completely opposite of that.
Okay. Next up, I'm gonna touch up on our NFL coaching, or a couple NFL teams in particular that we've picked that we want to cover a few instances of and on. Yeah, well, yeah, Clint, that was brutal. That was the trifecta of damn. So it was already pretty much discussed and noted. Robert's already been to Jacksonville, and a couple of weeks ago on DA, I did turn around and even brought that up, that was pretty much a good landing point for him. And of course, haven't heard too much of anybody else being interviewed since, but we know we're early in this process.
Oh, yeah.
But it was very, very intriguing to see that is the first spot that, you know, it was like, hey, they weren't waiting around on it. They let Peterson go and went, dude, we know who we want. And they picked up the phone and went, yo, come on down.
Well, I think the point of
thing, I'm sorry, my big
go
thing
ahead.
about this is what will they do in the draft? If Robert is the head coach, what is like his first pieces to address? You have a running back in ETN who's he's strong enough, but not, I mean, right now I've seen another ETN who's a lot better, who's not in the pros yet. And I think he's going to be he's going to be a little bit better than Travis is. And that's kind of scary because Tank Bigsby has flashes, but I mean, there is nothing there for their running. I mean, they really do need a better running back, in my opinion.
They also need wide receiver help because Gabe Davis, out for most of the year with a knee injury. Christian Kirk, IR with a collarbone injury. Evan Ingram, IR shoulder injury. Outside of Brian Thomas, they don't got much to throw the football to.
Clint, I think that is all on Peterson. 100%.
Yeah, Doug has never been the one to really fully develop his quarterback.
Nope.
I mean, if you look at
It's
Jacksonville,
kind of like Cleveland when they ruined quarterbacks. That's why the list keeps getting longer and longer.
I
You
mean,
got
if
all
you
these
want to
coaches
just
who trash them or trash the Q. I mean, they literally just waste the quarterbacks. I'm just hoping that it's, if Robert does get there, yeah, that he flips him around. I mean, people were even questioning on if Justin Herbert was still the answer with the Chargers. And you just need the correct coach in there and the right system. I've always been saying that.
well, let's just look at something here with Jacksonville. Now, Robert Saleh, right? Answer me this. What's his bread and butter? Defense.
And that Jacksonville defense is, and they could utilize him big time.
Well,
It is
here's
a
the thing.
disaster.
It is, but they have some bright spots here. So first off, what is Robert? Well, first of all, Robert Saleh has an old friend in Jacksonville by the name of Eric Armstead already there. You have two premier pass rushers in Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker. What is another thing Robert Saleh likes to have in his defense? A strong middle linebacker. Well, Devin Lloyd's pretty good. 113 total tackles, 1 interception. So, and in their secondary, they have Tyson Campbell, who is only 24 years old. Not the greatest year, but again, I mean, Andre Cisco, who's only 24, 67 total tackles this year, 1 interception. They have pieces on their defense. They signed Darnell Savage in free agency last year. He was solid. They have pieces. They need more.
Yep.
Oh God, Ronald Darby was on here. What the? Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. and then you find out the rest of the cheese is moldy.
Yeah. No, you find out the rest is you get American, then you can find the rest is blue cheese.
Ooh. Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
Honey, we found some blue cheese in the back of the pantry. I'm sorry.
All right.
What?
Then the next fun one. The worst kept secret, I think, in the league. Vrabel with the Patriots.
Yeah. I don't see him going anywhere else.
I mean, it's very interesting so far to even see that some teams are actually rejecting offers to being interviewed. Aaron Glenn was actually the Patriots actually inquired for Aaron Glenn, I think, to satisfy the Rooney Rule.
Yeah.
Which I think is a bunch of garbage, and good for Aaron for rejecting it, because I think as soon as they go through to try to resolve the Rooney Rule, darn well they're announcing Vrabel as the coach.
I actually think, personally, I think Glenn's going to get the Saints job.
Really?
Yeah. I really think that's a good fit for him, and I think he could honestly really turn the situation in New Orleans around. I like his fit in New Orleans. Now, Zolt's not going to be happy with that, but still. But
yeah, I'm not Clint, and I am not a fan of that either.
Oh,
because,
they were tanking. Just call it how you want.
Yeah.
This was a tank season. They got Drake May. They wanted to get another top pick, and you know what? Tyler said it. I guarantee you, Gerard Mayo. There were reports coming out before that game that Gerard Mayo was probably going to lose his job. So you know what he did? He sat there and said, "Okay, I got the number 1 overall pick. If I win today, it drops in the 4th. Well, I'm getting fired anyway. Hey, call Lovie Smith.
Yep, let's go win this game.
Screw your pick.
Let's go win this game," and that's exactly what he did.
But I mean, of course, Vrabel, expatriate. It makes a ton of sense. Mike Vrabel is a very good coach. I think he kind of got shafted in Tennessee. I mean, look, if you can lead a team with Ryan Tannehill to the 1 seed in the AFC at some point, you did something special. But you get Vrabel in there, you're going to have like $130 million in cap space. You have your quarterback. You still have a top 5 draft pick. So that situation in New England could
I mean, I know that this is kind of the obvious, but I actually wanted Vrabel in Chicago.
No, they cannot take another defensive first head coach with Caleb Williams. This is it's funny. I just made a YouTube video about this yesterday. I just uploaded it today. If you're the Chicago Bears, it is Ben Johnson, Cliff Kingsbury, or bust. They have got to maximize the potential of Caleb Williams. They have ruined him already. They have to fix this. And a defensive-minded head coach is not going to fix that.
I don't disagree, but then again, I know that it's like, well, does Ben really want to stay in the same division as Campbell and compete against him? Or
he did accept the interview. He already took the interview.
Again, I'm also figuring that he's going to get multiple interviews. I think he's going I think he's going to go through the whole gambit of the interviews.
No, I know that. I'm just
I think he's the number one sought after guy. I think he's going to accept all the interviews.
Yeah, like he also interviewed for the Patriots job. But like you said with Glenn decided not to interview for the Patriots job. So these guys can deny interviews. If Ben didn't want to go to Chicago, he would just simply say, look, I'm not going to interview with you. I do remember that, though.
Hey, that's funny. You know, I mean, it's like being the Detroit punter. The Detroit Lions punter is just sitting back, kicking back, relaxing, and collecting a paycheck. Because Dan's going for it on 4th down.
Pretty much.
I mean, literally, that Detroit punter has to be sitting on the little comfy bench over there. And when it's 4th down, he just looks over to see if Dan's going to sit there and look at him and go, nope, you're good. Stay there. Just don't bother. We got this.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it is I think that's kind of the funniest thing is because I like Dan Campbell going for it on 4th down because you do in video games. And it's like, hey, if you're going to be a 4-down team and you're really good at it, why not? Well, what is up? We got both of the WYO. What's up, guys? And of course, he ain't gonna be talking about his Tennessee Titans.
But no, they're right. The Bears don't have a bad defense.
No, they're not. They showed early on that they don't. He won't be on the field that much, right?
No wonder he's running around there hitting people.
Right. All right, let's get to the team I know you want to get to.
Oh my God.
Here you go.
This has got to be the worst. This has got to be one of the most poorly ran organizations in the world.
I'm sorry. Have you not seen the Cleveland Browns?
No, because you know what? The Browns recognize the problem and don't scapegoat their head coach because of it. I thought we will agree to disagree on Kevin Stefanski, but that's a conversation we can have another day.
I was going to say there's a few other coaches that we've done it to.
All right. Here's the problem, okay?
Yep.
John Gruden was the coach a few years ago, and he actually had a little bit of decent success with Derek Carr. Then you fire John Gruden for reasons, we know that, and bring in McDaniels. And McDaniels claims that Derek Carr can't run his system, even though Derek Carr, I believe, the last year in Vegas led the league in passing yards in that system.
Yes, he did.
So you trade Carr to the Saints, and you replace him with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, my God, is probably one of the worst game managers I've ever seen. And then you fire McDaniels, because he couldn't make that work. Then you bring in Pierce for the end of last year. Then you give him this whole year. And if you thought Jimmy Garoppolo was bad, well, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ritter, and Aiden O'Connell said, hold our beer as we sit on the strip and collect a paycheck and laugh at you. The biggest problem with the Raiders has been is, first of all, Mark Davis continues to want Hall of Fame production with C-level D2 school talent. The Raiders probably have had 3 really solid head coaches. Gruden was fine there. McDaniels would have been fine. And I think Pierce actually gets a lot of the best effort out of his players. But you're never going to know that because Mark Davis doesn't give these guys more than a year to fix things. The Raiders will never be a well-run team because of the idiotic decisions that they make. They have talent. Brock Bowers, he's pretty good. Max Crosby, one of the best pass rushers in the game. Colton Miller, one of the more underrated left tackles in the game. Now, they also let talent leave. Josh Jacobs. I still love the fact that when they got rid of Khalil Mack and then John Gruden was sitting there like, yeah, it's hard to find a good pass rusher these days. Well, newsflash, John, you had one. You traded him. The Raiders will never be a relevant franchise until they realize that they need to find a way to get a quarterback. And I'm not talking Jimmy Garoppolo. There's only 2 ways to fix this. One you can do now, and Clint, they should trade. The heck if Crosby wants to go or not, the Raiders should trade him because he is one of the reasons they are stuck in this limbo. Because he's so damn good, he can make 3 plays a year in the fourth quarter, win you 3 games. Here's what the Raiders have to do. They have to do one of 2 things. They have to find the right head coach, the right offensive staff, and they have one of 2 options. Well, actually, you have 3 options. You throw a boatload of money at Sam Darnold, which teams are going to do. That's option 1. That's probably the quickest way to try to fix these things. But I really don't know if Sam Darnold's going to leave Kevin O'Connell. You call Minnesota and see what they're going to do. If they keep Darnold, you call Minnesota and say, well, what are you doing with J.J. McCarthy? Or you have to
J.J. with a clipboard still.
Or, George, I'll tell you right now, if they re-sign Sam Darnold, some team will call them, offer them a first-round pick, and they will take it. Then there's option 3. You trade Crosby. You trade away all your guys like him and Jacoby Myers, guys that'll get you something, and you have to suck for at least a year or 2, depending on the quarterback classes, and you have got to find your quarterback of the future because you cannot keep going with Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ritter, Jimmy Garoppolo crap. And no, please do not compare Sam Darnold to Jimmy Garoppolo because Sam Darnold is way better than Jimmy Garoppolo. But that is where the Raiders are. And that is why they are the Raiders. Like, see, they're not going to get, like, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders will not be there by the time they pick at 6. It ain't going to happen.
No, I did not know all the other stupid screens are going to come up on that. I hate that. Stupid websites and autoplays. That really stunk.
And good Lord, do they got to find someone to fix their defense because their defense is atrocious. But it doesn't matter until you find the quarterback. They already have some of the, like, all right, George, here's a good one for you, right? A young quarterback, first couple years in the league. Who's your best friend? A good tight end. Well, they got that already.
Yeah.
What's another best friend? A really good left tackle. Cole Miller's pretty damn good.
Well, a wide receiver and a running back, too.
Well, yes, I agree with that, but it doesn't matter if you're going to get sacked within 2 seconds. But Colton Miller's a pretty good damn left tackle, and a lot of people criticized that pick when they made it, but he's actually turned to a pretty damn good left tackle. So you kind of have some of the success factors that you need, but the problem is they don't have the quarterback. They're never going to do it because they have that new
Ooh.
stadium in Vegas. They're never going to be this bad. That Myers with Judy? I can say it.
That'd be interesting.
I mean, they're both coming off career seasons. But yeah,
Found a better one.
the
here.
Raiders.
So the Raiders at 6.
Well, there goes that
And
idea.
I think Cleveland's definitely gonna take phone calls. I don't think they're gonna stay and pick there. I truly don't.
Wait, say that again.
I don't believe Cleveland is staying here.
Oh yes, George. After what this came down today, oh yes, they are.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Not with the salary cap issues too. I mean, they're making it work, but I don't think so. I think they're going to take and they'll trade out of that spot.
Yeah,
and
but if you have,
especially knowing that the Raiders definitely want to leapfrog the Giants.
okay, hear me out.
Okay.
Raiders. Can we agree with this, right? Shador is going to want to play in Vegas, and Dion will want him to play in Vegas. Cam Ward would play in Vegas. Cam Ward played in Miami. He doesn't want to play. No offense, he doesn't want to play in cold. He wants to play in the warm. Raiders give you 6. You give them 2. And you get Jacoby Myers? I was going to say Matt Crosby, but that would be asinine. That would be absolutely asinine.
Well, I mean, it depends on how desperate Davis is.
Could we imagine, just for a second, it ain't going to happen. Could you imagine Max Crosby and Myles Garrett?
Oh, that'd be great to see in the Pro Bowl. Oh, wait a minute. That's right. The Pro Bowl's a former fantasy of itself. That's right. Darn it.
You know what that means, right? Then
you know what
that means, right? The Steelers would have the 3rd best pass rusher in the division. I love TJ Watt, but he's not Myles Garrett. I mean, if you are Cleveland, it does make a little bit of sense to trade out. I mean, you sit there at 6.
Even the Jets could jump up there. The Jets,
yeah,
they already know. I think the Jets already know they don't want to deal with Rodgers anymore. I think that experiment is done.
It sounds like he may be done, so they may not even have him to deal with. So there's something else we have to look at.
They need somebody badly, and that if the Jets can't work out a deal, I think that's why Kirk Cousins could be a very hot commodity real fast.
Now, the big monkey wrench is the team picking at 1. That's the monkey wrench, because if they do take a quarterback or don't, whatever they do will determine what the rest of the order will go. And do we think Tennessee's already done with Will Levis?
The question is, is Tennessee also getting those phone calls?
Oh, of course they are. Everybody will call you for number 1.
Well, I mean, especially because if they think that Levis is good, but they just need to work on that offensive line. I mean, their running back is pretty solid, but they got to work on that offensive line. So it's like, hey, we turn around and take a left tackle and get 2 number 1 picks on top of it.
Now, if I'm Howie Roseman here, I'm just going to try to find a team that needs a quarterback and maybe just throw in my first round pick and Kenny Pickett, move into the top 10 and take Abdul Carter. And then I'm happy. So.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be I think there's a lot of phone calls that will be happening between 1 and 2 sooner rather than later. I think a lot sooner rather than later.
Oh yeah.
By the way, I don't think this waits until, I mean, once the league is like fully vested back on their schedule, March 13th, I think it is.
Something around there.
And I think that's when, once they figure out who's coaching where, and the GMs have also been, replenished, and the coordinators have been replenished, I think it's gusto. I think Tennessee and Cleveland are both fielding phone calls. I don't think either one of them picks. The Giants aren't going to budge because they're going to wait to see what happens with 1 and 2, and then they're going to make their pick at 3. I don't see any reason for the Patriots to make a jump, or Jacksonville, but the Raiders, the Jets, yeah, I could totally see them going for it.
I can see the Patriots trade. I don't think he'll be there at 4. It would depend on what teams are picking ahead if this order stays the same. If not, the Patriots make a lot of sense for Travis Hunter because they need to get a wide receiver in there for Drake May because the Patriots wide receivers are awful.
Yeah.
That reminds me of a college team I watch.
Yeah. And Jacksonville's in a prime spot for a running back or even an offensive tackle too.
Always.
Or the left guard. That too. So yeah, like I said, I think that both of them are going to be looking. I think both of them are going to be looking, and I don't think either one are going to be there. I think the Raiders and the Jets want to beat New York to those quarterbacks. So that's, I think, 6 and 7. That's where Tennessee and Cleveland will probably end up. And heck, for all we know, Miami could turn around and be in the mix as well. Miami could be in the mix. The Colts could be into the mix. I mean, looking at 6 or 7, I think there could be a lot of moving going on this year. There really could be. In that top 20, there really could be a lot of moving going on.
One, maybe even Pittsburgh or Seattle. Pittsburgh doesn't have a long-term answer at quarterback. That's fair enough, but I still like Myles Garrett better.
You're right. Is he playing both positions when he gets in the NFL?
His body won't be able to handle it.
Well, hold on. Maybe. Remember, Troy Brown did it.
Yeah, but I don't. I also think he's a better wide receiver than he is a defensive back. But
I was going to say, it's not a bad thing. I mean, how much of it? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the question. How much of
it? Jay says, my Titans are picking. We're done. He says, we're done with Levis. I was waiting for him to answer. And I was like, what do you think? I mean, what if the Titans turn around and pull in and take Kirk Cousins? If you're going to take Cousins and then you stay at 1 and you turn around and take Hunter and you get Cousins and another wide receiver, because I think you're solid at running back. So that's an interesting, a very interesting scenario there. Because Tennessee's got the money.
Yeah.
McMillan kid from Arizona. Yeah.
This is going to be one of the most interesting top 10s in a NFL draft that we've ever seen. Because I don't know who. The only team I know that is going to try their damnedest to get a quarterback is the Giants. Because the Giants, of course, decided to screw themselves and go beat the Colts and drop 45 on them and decided to screw themselves out of a top 2 pick. So now, like we said earlier, because the Giants jumped. The Giants are feeling teams behind them are trying to jump them. Maybe they jump first. Eagles did it a couple times a couple of years ago with Jalen Carter. They moved up 1 spot because the team was trying to jump them.
Still too many holes. Okay.
Yeah. AJ Brown build?
Yeah, the McMillan kid.
A lot of interesting things that are going to be going down, but it all ain't going to matter because the Raiders are probably going to take like a freaking safety that is probably going to have off-field issues like they always do.
Speaking of a team with a lot of holes, this one is holier than a priest and a nun on Sundays. Yes, I said it. Yes, I said it. Got holes everywhere. Holes in the coaching staff, holes in the offensive line, defensive line. Wide receivers are still holy. Nick Chubb, is he here? Is he gone?
I mean, Watson has a hole in his foot right now.
Yeah, Watson's toast. So then that leaves, okay, what quarterback can you turn around and rent for a little while?
Let me ask you I have 2 questions for this.
Because they know DTR is not the answer.
DTR stinks.
And I think and just like just like moving on from a former Alabama running back, I think the Browns could totally turn around and move on from DTR here pretty fast.
All right, so I have 2 questions for this. Number 1, in terms of Deshaun Watson, do you think he actually will ever play football again now?
In all honesty, no.
How do you, coming back from multiple Achilles tears is already hard, but the fact that you are coming back now from 2 Achilles tears within, 6 months of each other?
Clint says, whoever has the fastest 40 time.
So, do you start your quarterback room next year with bringing back a guy like Jameis? Do you bring him back to compete with someone else? I know Adam's going to hate me for that, but I'm just asking. You got to bring in somebody.
Like I said, right now you got Russell Wilson on only a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. Justin Fields, 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. Kirk Cousins is open and available. Derek Carr, Justin brought it up on his show. You got Derek Carr, who is on his way out too. He's done with the Saints. So
that's probably the best option that Cleveland would have is Carr.
Why do you say Carr?
I just think Carr's got more left in the tank than Cousins does.
I think Justin Fields has more in the tank than any of them.
Justin Fields screams Giants to me for some reason.
Oh no!
And I hate that for
look.
Justin Fields.
He's already been on a really crappy team. I don't think he wants to go backwards. Going from the Bears to Pittsburgh was an upgrade. Let's not lie about it, okay? Justin Fields going to Pittsburgh was an upgrade.
Oh, God,
was a total upgrade for him. Oh my God. Zolt, really? No.
First of all, Quinn Ewers is about to get paid like $7 million from a Big Ten team, so that ain't happening.
It doesn't matter if they want to go to Cleveland. I mean,
money
sure.
talk if they have it.
I was gonna say the Browns are the first team to give a guaranteed freaking money contract. Everybody wants to come to Cleveland. We're giving out guaranteed money like it's going out of style. Who doesn't?
That's why they'll take her. That's why they'll trade for Cousins to take the whole contract.
Oh.
Would you imagine?
Kareem, really? You think that they'll take Fields over? They'll give Fields a contract over Russell Wilson?
Well, he's almost damn near 8 years younger. So, and he had them undefeated before Wilson got back. So, I could see it.
That's a very interesting point.
Look, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, Mike Tomlin's going to do the same damn thing he does every year. He's going to think he has an elite defense, which they're good, but they're not elite. And he's going to run the football with Najee Harris way too much that he should. And then they're going to be a 10-7 team again. It don't matter who the quarterback is.
Bill even says Fields is saying, well, like I said, they're both on 1-year deals, and nobody has been offered anything.
I think Fields will go back to Pittsburgh. I don't think Russell Wilson will.
Kareem says they'll keep both, pay Russ 2-year deal, keep Fields. I don't know if I don't think that would happen. The other thing that I brought up earlier too was Fields could turn around and end up in Seattle. Was something that I put on that, hey, keep an eye out on the back burner. Because how happy has Seattle been with Geno Smith and his decision making? And right now, they're not really. It's like, yeah, he's putting up numbers, but the results are not. I mean, the numbers are coming in garbage time when they were seriously behind.
What about the Raiders? That could be you could make a case for the Raiders to sign either Fields or Wilson.
That would be interesting. I mean, Wilson, it'd be a little bit closer to home.
Wilson feels like a Raiders move to me.
Yeah, but when you go to the Raiders, it's pretty much when you're ready to retire. I don't know if Wilson's that close to that retirement.
He's 30.
He could be. Yeah. So it could be that time for the Raiders or Cardinals retirement run.
Also, let's see when it comes to Russell Wilson, let's see where
people they're both unrestricted free agents. Both Wilson and Fields are clear unrestricted free agents.
Sure. Now, the reason I brought up Russell Wilson, okay? The reason I say this is guess who is interviewing next week with the Raiders? Pete Carroll.
Whoa.
Now I don't.
I know I had him on my list. A couple weeks ago.
So he interviewed with Chicago this week, and he's going out to Vegas to interview next week. Now, I don't really know if the disconnect in Seattle was Carroll and Russell Wilson, or was it Russell Wilson in the front office? All I do know is that some people really got sick of the Russell Wilson diva act on where he had an office in the building with the executives. And I know a lot of people that were starting to get tired of that. Sean Payton didn't like it in Denver. That's why he got him out of there. And Mike Tomlin, when he got to Pittsburgh, said, yeah, you're not getting any of that. We already have an office up there for Ben, so you can't have one either. But yeah, so I mean, if that relationship wasn't completely fractured, if Pete Carroll lands in Vegas and they need a bridge, a stopgap quarterback, which we know the Raiders love, Russell Wilson on a 2-year deal could make a real lot of sense.
Clint, I did not. I will have to check that out.
You know, Russell Wilson is not only, Russell Wilson is, he's a thief. Because here's the thing, right? He stole money for two people. He stole a lot of money from his career, all that stuff with the Broncos and all. But you know what else he did? He made teams think that Malcolm Butler was a good NFL corner because of one damn play. He made Malcolm Butler a whole heap of money. He made him a lot of money. But yeah, I mean, that's a very logical point. I think that the Raiders could be involved for Russ if, depending on who they hire. If it's Pete Carroll, maybe. Not sure. Like I said, I'm not sure how their relationship ended in Seattle. It wasn't great with Russell and the franchise as a whole, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah. And I mean, right now there's just a lot of, as you said, stopgap quarterbacks right now that are in limbo and could really up anywhere. It's like, not to steal the Vegas pun, but shuffle up and deal.
And there are two quarterbacks in this free agent class that will get multi-year deals. Now, guys will get multiple. Like Wilson will probably get a 2-year, but Sam Darnold, because of how great he's been this year, and Justin Fields, because he's still very young. But Justin Fields needs to be in the right situation. And like you said, I don't see why you would leave Pittsburgh after how this year's been. I don't know why you would leave. The only way I see him leaving is if somebody, and I'm not going to mention any stupidly ran organizations, Giants, offer you a boatload of money. Which they probably would, because they're the freaking Giants. Because Sam Darnold ain't going to the Giants. He's not going back to that stadium. That ain't happening.
No, in fact, I think even when Minnesota gets bounced,
I don't think they're going to get rid of him.
No, I think they offer him a little bit of a long-term deal.
So do I. And I think they're going to field calls for JJ. I understand, yes, back up. But if teams are going to offer you a top 10 pick or even a top 15 pick, you take the pick.
Okay.
Because it's been rumored that will be a very big possibility, that J.J. McCarthy could be traded for a first-round pick. And again,
for a guy who has not seen a regular NFL game, you're going to give, and who was injured and was out for the whole year, so he's been out of football already for a whole year, and you're going to you'll trade a number 1 pick. Who makes that stupid move?
Well, okay, but now you have to think to yourself right now, right? Let's say J.J. McCarthy was in this year's draft class, right? Would he be the third quarterback? Would he easily be the third quarterback off the board behind Ward and Sanders?
Why wouldn't he be first?
But I'm asking. That's why I'm asking the question. You could make the case if he would have, because when he was drafted, was he a senior or a junior?
Senior.
Okay, so all right, so he couldn't have been. But let's just hypothetical fun game here, right? Let's say McCarthy went back to Michigan last year, right? He potentially could have been the number one over quarterback off the board this year. So if you're a team that's picking in the top, if you would say to yourself, right, well, we would use a top 10 pick on JJ McCarthy, doesn't trading it kind of make the same imbalance there? That if I would use this draft pick on a guy like this anyway, I might as well just trade it for him.
Yeah, and Scott.
Remember, Minnesota had to trade up to get him too. It's just nobody predicted Sam Darnold to turn into freaking prime Peyton Manning all of a sudden. No one saw that coming. I thought Darnold would have a solid year in Minnesota because, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Jones, Kevin O'Connell, really good offensive-minded coach, good offensive line. But damn, I didn't expect this. I don't think anyone saw this coming. So you really got to ask yourself that. If you would have taken McCarthy with a top pick in the draft, why not just trade it for him? Now, hopefully it would be a team and he would thrive with the right system. Like, again, depending on who these teams... the problem is with all this talk now is we have to see what coaches go where, what coordinators go where. That's the hard part about that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a very logical idea that J.J. McCarthy could be traded for a first-round pick, and it's not that outlandish if you were already willing to draft him with a top pick. Basically the same thing, except you're getting one less year control because, you only have him for 4 years instead of 5 because he missed his whole rookie year with the injury and he was on Minnesota. So, just a thought.
Yeah, if they're going to give
let me be honest with you. If I'm the Raiders, I'm giving Russ a 1-year deal and I'm trading for JJ. I'm all freaking over that. If I am the Raiders, then I'm keeping, because then I can keep my guys, right? I don't need to trade Max Crosby. I don't need to trade Jacoby Myers. And JJ's going to come in here. I have Jacoby Myers for him. I have Brock Bowers, which McCarthy and Bowers for the next 4 years could be something real fun to watch. I just got to I could use, or I could even do this. I could trade away those assets still and buff up my offensive line to protect the kid. Maybe invest in a running back so I have a run game.
I was just going to say, and you need a running back.
And this is a good year to need a running back because there's some good damn running backs coming out of college. Genty, Katron Allen, and Nicholas Singleton, we still have to wait for their decisions, but I think at least one of them will go. Gadaboo from Arizona State.
And it was funny. I was with Bruiser. I was at Bruiser's house. We were watching that game, Arizona State and Texas. And at the beginning of the game, that Scadaboo's comment said, I'm the best running back. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's mighty big words coming from a guy. I'm like, you need to put up or shut up. And as I watched that game, and the dude literally was totally gassed in that fourth quarter, and he still just kept coming back out. And I was sitting there going, you know what? I can't not give him crap about that comment anymore because dang, did he leave it all out there. And then some. I said, I wouldn't have doubted that dude ran into the locker room just puking his guts out because I think he left it all. And it's like, hey, guess what? I'll take that on my pro football team any day of the week. I mean, even if it looks like you're not going to win the game and then you just try to bust your butt to flip it around. And here comes the reality check here, Sam. Zolt says the Raiders aren't that smart. It's always Davis. They need to make.
But just imagine that, right? You take that pick, you trade to Minnesota for freaking JJ. You keep Myers and them. Then maybe you draft Scadaboo in the next and within the first 3 rounds of the draft. Then you're looking at an offense next year. Myers, Scadaboo, Bowers, McCarthy, Russell Wilson's in there to be unless they just want to start McCarthy right away, which is also an option. But beef up that O-line. Maybe use some other picks to help that defense because Max Crosby can't play every position on the field.
Right.
Maybe you use some money in free agency for that. I don't know. But I'd probably just fix the Raiders in like 5 minutes. And it'll take them.
everybody can fix the Raiders in 5 minutes. But remember, it's Davis who's pulling the strings.
Oh yeah, he'll take 5. He'll take 5 more decades.
Yeah. I like this. Clint brings up a very good point. You definitely this is the reason why you do play the bowl games, because you want all these general managers and these VP of operations. You want that war room to remember your name in that room on draft night, especially in round 1. And when you put performances like that and they can go back and look at more film, at least you've brought attention to yourself. You brought eyes on you. And I definitely think that would move him up in the draft order for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I've even made some points to where
Al Davis 2.0. Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely, Bill.
I
100%.
think I've made this the case where possibly I think Ashton Genty is the best runner out of the two. I mean, the numbers show he is, but if you're looking for a running back that can do everything, Scadaboo's a way better pass catcher than Ashton Genty is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which right now you need, because remember, they keep pulling away from the running game.
People do not understand how valuable a pass catching running back is in this league. Nobody values that enough.
Right, because everybody would like to have Marshall Faulk.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you're looking for. You're looking for
Exactly.
Marshall Faulk. Oh, geez, here we go.
Will that be an upgrade over Najee Harris?
You know, the bad thing about Pittsburgh and seeing Clint, yeah, and I still think the Chargers messed up by letting him go. But it's like, hey, it is what it is.
Yes, but here's the thing. The one thing, and this is what I love about Jim Harbaugh, he is honest. They came in and said, look, we want running backs that can carry the ball 20 to 22 times a game. We don't view you as that. And that's what they told Austin Eckler. And Austin Eckler isn't that type of a running back. If you watch the Commanders closely, and from being a guy who is a fan of the NFC East like me, I'm an Eagles fan. I have to watch the Commanders twice a year. I have to watch them all season now. I'm going to have to watch them every year because Jaden Daniels is a pain in my ass. But they have used that thunder lightning combination this year with Eckler. Brian Robinson does a bulk of the carries, and Eckler gets the first game against Philly, he had 9 catches for 90 yards.
Yeah,
like
and
they are.
He'll run the ball too.
Oh, he will, but that's how the Commanders and Cliff Kingsbury have used him this year, and it's been pretty damn smart.
100%. 100%. And right now, excuse me, I apologize. I am still trying to beat up this stupid sinus thing that I've got going on here, so my voice has been toast as well.
They tend to be a real knockout.
Yeah, it took me out for Monday, so the Commanders beating the Bucs an upset, really.
It will.
I want to say, I want to say it's even. I'd almost say that it would be even. I don't know if it. I mean, yes and no, because the Bucs have been the team to beat the Lions.
And wait, can I just say something real quick? And this goes to a lot of things. Like I said this about the Rams being a threat to the Lions on my show. I understand the Lions beat them week 1. I understand that the Packers beat the Eagles beat the Packers week 1. And I know the Bucks beat the Commanders week 1. Can we just agree with something? Nobody gives a shit what happened in September.
In week 1. Right.
Nobody cares. Oh, the Eagles beat the Packers week 1. That doesn't mean they're going to beat them on Sunday. You still got to play the damn game. The Bucks. Do you think this is not the same Jaden Daniels we saw week 1? That was the first career start, Jaden Daniels. Now you're looking at a guy who has been solely a pimp. And honestly, you know that little MVP one slide that we have? We should have honestly I think he's another one. He ain't going to win it, but he's got to be considered. This guy's turned the Commanders around in 1 year.
Oh, he'll get the Rookie of the Year honors.
Oh, absolutely. That's not a doubt.
Week 1, it may have been last season. Yeah, exactly.
It feels like it. Week 1 feels like it was a year ago. Exactly. That's why all these people, there are literally people out there, and I see this. Do you remember a month ago on 609, I literally said to Eagle fans, I hate them because I hate stupidity. There are literally people that are like, oh, well, the Eagles beat the Packers week 1. Wow, you were in another country. Congratulations.
And it's still preseason. Remember, they've been eliminating preseason. I'm old enough to remember when there were 6 preseason games.
I ain't that old.
I'm just saying, I am old enough to remember 6 preseason games. It was good when they whacked it down to 4. So trust me. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
But even 4, they were like, oh, well, this is kind of wishy-washy. I think that it's kind of like daylight savings time. Just put that sucker on the half hour, leave it alone, and eliminate changing clocks. Preseason NFL, 3 preseason games, get your crap together, hit week 4 off and running, which would be your regular season week number 1, and go from there. Jesus, Dave, I'm not that old.
Wait, what did it say? I didn't see the bottom. Go back to it. Well, let's also remember that George is also old enough to remember what his whole team was not on injured reserve too.
Really, we got to go there. The 14-game season worked. Yeah, it did. It did, but
George, I had to bring the IR joke at least one.
Yeah, but the thing is that NFL owners are like, hey, we make more money when it's real regular season football and not preseason. Because I've been to a few preseason games. Parking is cheap as all get out. You pretty much buy any ticket in the lower sections that regular season wise you're never going to be able to afford or even get. Dude, that hasn't been that long ago. Debo and DK came into the league at the same time. It's only been a few years. Relax.
I think we have to revisit that Dueling Aces episode that we debated about wide receivers. I think we should revisit that one day. I think Tyler and I have some word for that.
I don't know what you're talking about. Maybe it's because the fact that I drafted him in a couple of my fantasy leagues and he did.
Hey
so
George,
well.
is that the delete button you're trying to find? delete. Oh God.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. Is that it's because I drafted him this year in fantasy. That's why he did so well. Maybe that's the ticket.
Let's also point out to the fact people that George will text me every week bitching about my football team because they're not doing his fantasy team justice. Let's just a reminder.
That was this year. That's over with now.
You think a Niners fan like George would hate the Eagles because they bounced the Niners in the NFC title game 2 years ago. No, he gets mad when they don't do his fantasy team justice. I'm sitting here and look, I'm sitting there bitching and complaining already, and I'm getting the double work here.
Oh, Bill, yeah, who knew? That's gotta hurt.
No,
I know that hurt. Yeah, it's like, who were those 49ers a couple of weeks? Where the heck was that all season?
The only 49ers player that I would have wanted on my team this year was Jawan Jennings. Maybe
Oh,
Kittle.
yeah. Clint doesn't want to talk about Hurts.
What was the hatred for her?
Oh, it wasn't pretty a couple of years ago. It
No,
was ugly. It
you
was
should have
ugly.
watched the OG 609 episodes that, of course, are in the archive. Our first show was right after the draft when they took Hurts, and it was mayhem every week.
Wow, really, Zolt? Don't have him on the roster to begin with.
Well, you can just put him as natural position, running back. You may need him with the amount of running backs you went through this year. Jesus.
Ironically, San Francisco had some plug and play bodies once they got a few more pages of the playbook. But I digress. I digress. There was somebody who wasn't given a full playbook and automatically was like, oh, guess what? You're starting this week because 3 running backs went down. It's like, hey, wouldn't that be helpful if you got the whole damn thing ahead of time? Oops.
I can't make jokes because Tyler owned, I believe, 4 San Francisco running backs this year, and at some point they all got hurt.
Yeah, y'all got to quit doing that.
Okay, don't look at me.
I don't want to have to tune into 609 anymore to hear the 49ers injury report every week. That was brutal. That was brutal. It's like, wow, really? Next year, I think for Dueling Aces, we'll just do the reverse. We'll go through the Eagles IR or injury report. I don't think anybody's going to be on it. It should go quick. Should go real quick.
If I come back to this show at some point next season, as I'm going through the same crap you did, you and I are going to have a talk, okay? Just a little one. But,
oh my God, Zolt's on fire today.
was actually how I played.
Oh,
Bill's not wrong. He's really not.
No, he's not. Good grief.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Well, we have exhausted through our time for this afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us on this very frigid Friday. We truly appreciate it. And until next time, we'll see you later. For Sam, G, 609 Monday, 5:30, Dueling Aces. Excuse me, 9 o'clock. No, I'm running out of voice, Dave.
He is running out of voice, God.
You never
like the Niners ran out of running backs, he's running out of voice.
Oh, Jesus.